Welcome back to my channel, sports fans. Okay, let's get into this one right here. Jordan is the greatest player of all time because of this. Not exactly what you see on the screen right here, but because what I am going to tell you right now. And we already know there's many things that we can point to. The only, top 10 player of all time, undefeated in the finals. 6 finals MVPs. Never went to a game 7. Has the greatest offensive arsenal ever known. What is it? I don't in the 90s, never lost 3 in a row. We could point to so many things. And this graphic only had one all-star teammate. And we're only looking at this graphic to show you what I'm going to talk about in a minute. But yeah, only had one all-star teammate. In 6 of those championships, only had an all-star teammate 4 times. 10 scoring titles. That's not what this video is about. We're going to get to it in a minute. 3 steals titles. Beat the most 60-win teams in the playoffs. Only lost one playoff game. Or one playoff series, my fault. Only lost one playoff series when having an all-star teammate. I mean, we could just go on and on and on. And on and on and on. The highest points per game in the regular season, the finals, and the playoffs, if I'm not mistaken. And this guy, I'm going to give you his channel one day. I don't know where it went. Not that it still ain't out there, but man, this guy's got so many Jordan records. It's insane. Oh, I had one. I think I did a video on it where he had all these, 60, 50, 40, and 30-point games without a 3-point attempt. It's just crazy. It was so many. It won't even fit on the screen. Especially the 40-point games and the 30-point games. I couldn't even believe how many 40-point games this guy had. It had to be about 40. Had to be about 40-point games without attempting 1 3. Attempting. Countless 30-point games without attempting 3s. It's just insane. And they try to tell us that the 3 ball is so important. Okay. Well, clearly these guys in this era should be having these 3 ball guys like Curry, who is a 3 ball expert. He should be having 5 scoring titles. He should be unstoppable. He should be unstoppable. But you would not know Micheal Jordan if he just sat out at the 3-point line and shot the 3. His arsenal was so great. And, we all know you got to be an idiot if you don't know about Micheal Jordan always hit the 3 whenever needed. Whenever needed. So that wasn't his game. Like I said, you would want to know him as like a LeBron James, drive it to the basket only. No, Jordan had that type of game. He was driving to the basket, hitting incredible shots, pump fakes, footwork, fadeaways, just crazy shots. The fact that they even discuss anybody close to Micheal Jordan is just I don't even know what to say. It would be like discussing a running back, like whether we're talking. If you throw away championships, okay, that's what most people want to do when it comes to LeBron James, and we're gonna hear it from other players. If you just throw away championships and you're talking about the game, the moves, the footwork, all this, it would be like trying to compare Barry Sanders or another running back to Barry Sanders. Are you out of your mind? Are you out of your mind? It would be like trying to compare another baseball player to Barry Bonds. Are you out of your mind? They didn't even want to pitch to Barry Bonds. Bonds could hit the ball high, low, away, anywhere. And in 5 years, it'll be like trying to compare, once Mahomes does all his stuff, trying to compare another quarterback later on to Mahomes. Are you out of your mind? I know no Brady is still my quarterback. You know what I'm saying? Nobody's been more clutch than Brady. I don't think that Mahomes will ever face the level of competition that Tom Brady faced. Those Colts teams, those still, I'm talking about in the 2000s, 2010s, those Colts teams, those Ravens teams back then, those Chargers teams. Let me see. Man, I have to go look this up. Those Jets teams with the defense, those Eagles teams. I mean, the defensive, it was just a better defensive era. And a lot of people say, "Oh man, they couldn't hit Brady like that no more." It didn't take away what Brady had to do defensively when he's throwing the ball to these guys, and Edelman making these spectacular catches. Those Seahawk teams, he just had to play better teams. Mahomes will never face that level of competition that Brady faced. Okay, well, Mahomes will come out ultimately on top, but the competition that Brady faced will never be there for Mahomes. Never. So let's get back into this. So, besides Jordan only playing with one All-Star teammate, Jordan never needed to go around and play with other teams' number one franchise players. Never did that. Kareem did that. Dr. J did that. Kobe did that. When we talk about Paul Gasol, I know all these guys right here aren't Hall of Famers in this graphic, but I'm just saying, we could say Magic, but it's not Magic's fault because some of those guys were already there when Magic got there. So you can't really blame him because they came over and played with Kareem. So you can't really put Magic in there because he was already drafted to that team. Yeah, Shaq did it. Gary Payton did it. We already know LeBron did it. LeBron is a specialist of doing this all of his career, and that's why I can't even put this guy in the top 10. To me, he's going to be out. I don't know where I have Joker right now. It's going to depend on what he does. He lost last night. It's all about adversity for a champion, anyways. You know, if he ends up winning the championship this year, the degree of difficulty, especially him playing the refs and LeBron flopping and crying 2 years in a row, and him doing what he's done, I got to put him over LeBron James. And LeBron is not even in my top 10 because these two back-to-back championships, they would mean more than any championship that LeBron ever had. Because, like I said, he didn't go and just play with Wade. He brought Bosh. He brought Ray Allen. He rearranged that whole team with what you could say would be like number 2 options or number 3 options on other teams. His role players. We know Bosh was a number 1 option, right? In Toronto. And Wade, we already know what he was. Then he goes to Cleveland. Kyrie, another number 1 franchise player. Love, another team's number 1 franchise player. AD, another team's number 1 franchise player. And then you throw in Howard. Why'd you go get Howard if he was old and trash? See, his fans are trash. They don't they don't understand how good Howard was, and they shut down Joker. They pretty much shut him down in 2020, right? In the playoffs. So we can even put Larry Bird on here. Larry Bird. Dennis Johnson. And then you have, what? I know Bill Walton was hurt, but he was another team's number 1 option. All these players, just to win their championships, needed other teams' number 1 options. Other teams' number 1 franchise players, on top of that, just to win championships. All Micheal Jordan needed was a guy that came out of, what was it, Little Rock, no, Central Arkansas or something like that. Scottie Pippen wasn't highly touted. Got him. Had to go straight to the bench. Had to go straight to the bench. Did nothing. I mean, he did start the playoffs that season in his rookie season. Did nothing. Pooped his pants. And then the next year, he pooped his pants again. And then 90, he did wake up, made the All-Star team. And a lot of people say because Bird was hurt, and I think that was true, because the next season after that, 91, they put Bird back on the All-Star team, and Pippen didn't make it. So, yeah, in reality, all Jordan did, all he needed to win with was a guy he groomed that was a bench player that didn't wake up until his, third, fourth season. All these other guys, they needed to win what they needed to win championships with was another team's number one franchise player. You can even look at Isaiah Thomas. I forget this guy's name. He always eludes me. He went over there in '88. I forget this guy, but he was another team's number one franchise player. What's this guy's name? I forget this guy's name. And Bill Laimbeer, he came over too and played with Isaiah Thomas. Was another team's number one franchise player. I know he's not Hall of Famer, and he should. He should be a Hall of Famer. I don't know what's going on. Just like Shawn Kemp should be a Hall of Famer. You got guys now who are Hall of Famers who didn't even have one All-Star appearance, like Michael Cooper. Hanging with Mr. Cooper, a great player. I guess he should be an All-Star, but you're trying to, a Hall of Famer, but you're trying to tell me you didn't make the All-Star team one time? And you guys said the 80s was trash. This is how difficult the 80s was and how much talent it really was in that era. That this guy couldn't even make an All-Star. That Michael Jordan was putting up all these crazy numbers and couldn't even win MVP, except look what he had to do just to win the MVP in '88. That's ridiculous. He pretty much had the same season that he had in what was it, 87? But he had to even do more just to get the MVP. So a lot of these guys, they look at athleticism, which means if you don't have great athleticism, guess what you got to have now? A lot of fundamentals for the game. And for a very long time, starting with the LeBron era, they've been picking these guys off of athleticism and not great fundamentals. Okay, that's why he had a hard time in the 90s, as far as, not in the 90s, in the early 2000s, up until 2010, all this melting down. Because a lot of those guys in the 2000s that was older, they came from the 90s, right? So they knew the game, the fundamentals too, not just athleticism, and they knew how to shut LeBron down. They knew how to watch this guy melt down because he didn't have the fundamentals. His fundamentals have always been overrated. If he had these great fundamentals, he would want to do one thing and excel at one thing. Now he doesn't. They say, "Oh, LeBron does everything," but it's not at a high level. You need somebody to do one or two things at a high level, and then let your teammate do the other things at a high level. Let your other teammates do this at a high level. He doesn't do anything. He doesn't score at a high level. He doesn't pass at a high level. When I say high level, I'm talking about 10 assists or more a game. We're talking about steals, 2 or more a game. We're talking about blocks, at least 1 block a game or more. Points, okay, 27. That's not at the highest level of the greatest scorers. It's just not. And then he gets most of them off of dunks and layups. So it's not at his scoring ain't at a high level of what a great scorer could do. He don't have an array of moves that dazzle you. It's just dunks and layups. And for his fan base to be like totally amazed at that in what they call shooting error, the guy should be embarrassed. He should be embarrassed that he can't shoot. He's never been able to shoot. Not consistently. That's why when he has a great shooting game, as a shooter, they try to say this is what he always does. No, what he always does. No, you don't know this guy for shooting. That's Michael Jordan. That's Curry. That's Tracy McGrady. That's AI. That's Kobe. You know, you can put the list out there. It's definitely not not this guy. He's not known for being a shooter. He's known for being a driver, consistent driver. Yes, he could shoot the ball here and there. He's a basketball player. But he would be considered like on Pippen's level as far as a shooter. That's about it. Scottie Pippen, a very inconsistent shooter. That's what he would be. Scottie Pippen, when he got hot, he could shoot the three. He could shoot the mid range. He could shoot all around the court. Turn around, pump fakes. He could do a lot of stuff. Actually, I think Pippen was a better shooter than LeBron. If you go back and look at go to YouTube, type in Pippen highlights. I think Pippen was a better shooter. In a more difficult era, he was a better shooter. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. Michael Jordan won 6 championships without other teams' number one franchise players. No other player has done this. Let me think. Nope, not Curry. We already know Curry didn't do it. You can't say Kawhi. Only guy I can point to, I know you guys been saying say it, is Tim Duncan. If you can think of a guy, no, Tim Duncan didn't win with other teams' number one franchise players. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say that Michael Jordan didn't have a free agent like Dennis Rodman or something like that. But we're talking about other teams' number one franchise players. Never happened with Michael Jordan. And that's what makes everybody look really bad when you talk about who's the greatest of all time. It's not even close. And, when you get up in these debate groups on Facebook, these LeBron fans, it's like they're late to the party. They start saying stuff that people were saying 6 years ago, 7 years ago, 8 years ago when the Nick Wrights came out with this type of stuff, 10 years ago, whatever, whenever this fool came on the scene, that Jordan couldn't win without Pippen, and Jordan is 6-0 because of Pippen. Okay. You're making yourself look bad. That's all he needed was one guy. Because if you dig deeper, where's Pippen's MVPs? What other team did he come off of as another team's franchise player? Where's his MVPs? Where's his finals MVP? Where's all this stuff at? He was a great defensive player, and he put up what? It averaged like 16 points in the regular season. I think like 18 in the playoffs. What are we talking about? Like Sports and Fitness Friends says, Michael Jordan is the only guy who isn't allowed to have help. Imagine that. And his help was not another team's franchise player. So if you guys can think of another player, I mean, you could say Kawhi, but he played with who? We're not going to include Kawhi for that 1 year in Toronto. We can't do that. Yeah, we can include. The guy only won one champion. He's not in the top 10 anyways. He's in the top 75, but we won't even talk about a one and done championship. Yeah. So if you guys can think of anybody else, or tell me if I'm wrong. Michael Jordan. If we go back to the 80s and we really break it down, what was going on was really unfair. How Boston and LA was coming off of championships and they was getting a number one overall pick. It was ridiculous to get Kevin McHale, to get Magic Johnson, or did good in the East or whatever like that, or the West, and still got the number one pick. It was a lot of stuff, and they already had loaded teams already. It was getting the number one pick to get Kevin McHale, get Magic Johnson and stuff like that, and then they went and got other teams' franchise players like the Celtics and stuff like that, Dennis Johnson and Bill Walton. So There's a lot of stuff going on in the '80s that was really unfair, but nobody talks about that. You know, Isaiah Thomas was getting all these players stacking the deck, and Michael Jordan was the only guy who would just sit back playing, wasn't stacking no deck, and nobody said nothing about it. All we heard was, "Oh, he couldn't win." Well, why was these guys stacking the deck? Why was these guys stacking the deck? And Michael Jordan was the only one not stacking the deck. Somebody got to explain that to me. I'll do a video. If you don't understand that, what was going on in the '80s was really unfair. These guys needed double, double the talent, or maybe triple the talent of what Michael Jordan had just to win. Tell me what you think.